This video is a quick review of Pythagorean theorem, one of the most useful theorems that makes our math life a lot easier. So you all know that Pythagorean theorem states c squared equals a squared plus b squared. To put it in plain English, c stands for the hypotenuse. So the longest side of a right angle, if you square that, should equal the sum of the squared of the two legs, the a squared and b squared. So make sure that you identify the hypotenuse as c. In this example, we're asked to find the length of the hypotenuse, which is x right here. And notice that the length of the two legs have been given already, 24 and 7. So we can just simply do a straightforward plug-in of the Pythagorean theorem where c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Because c is the hypotenuse, we replace c with x, we replace 24 with a, and we replace 7 with b. Notice that it really doesn't matter which one you label as a, which one you label as b in this case in the Pythagorean theorem, because a plus b equals b plus a, so it really doesn't affect of how you calculate the length of the hypotenuse. So if you use your calculator, 24 squared equals 576. 7 squared is 49. So we end up with, if you add it together, is 625. Now, in order to solve for x, I have to take a square root of x squared, and then I take a square root on the right-hand side. And you should know by now that 25 squared is 625, and therefore I can draw the conclusion x equals 25. So if you plug it in here, you notice it makes sense. 25 being the hypotenuse is the longest side. That's a 5. Okay? Next example. A 6-foot board is resting under a doorknob, and the base of the board is 5 feet. 5 feet away from the bottom of the door. Approximately how high above the ground is the doorknob? So if I take this triangle here, we know that it's a right angle because let's hope the door is perpendicular. It's not slanted, right? It's perpendicular to the floor. So my bottom leg is 5 feet. My hypotenuse is 6 feet. And my door height, I don't know. So if I apply the Pythagorean theorem, c squared equals a squared plus b squared, again, c has to be the hypotenuse, and it doesn't matter which one I label as a and which one I label as b. I simply replace a with 5 and replace b with x. And now I have 36 equals 25 plus x squared. And if I minus 25 on both sides, I have x squared equals 11. And if I take a square root on both sides to solve for x, my final answer is x equals square root of 11. Now, you can leave the answer here, but given the fact that it is a real life problem, when you tell people, oh, the door height is square root 11 feet, nobody would know what square root of 11 is unless there's some kind of math genius from Princeton. So if you want, you can take the square root of 11, and you should come up approximately 3.32 feet. Okay? So in exams, I would take both answers as my final answer, whether square root 11 or 3.32. I'm okay with that. Now let's look at this one. It's slightly more complicated. Notice that these problems, by being complicated, it really means that it doesn't give you all the information on step 1 for you to use the formulas to calculate what you need to calculate. Instead, it hides some of the information around, so you have to try to find different ways to get what you need ultimately. So here it's asking us to find the area of these isosceles triangle with side length 16, 16, 17, 17. So I guess 16 is here. Okay. So I know if I'm asked to find the area formula is half of base times height. Now, my base is, they said 16, right? I don't know my height, right? And so here I sort of got stuck because I have one formula. Actually, I can simplify this. Half of 16 is 8h. So I have landed in this equation here where I have two variables without any more specific information. So I need to find other ways to find one of the variables. And you notice that if we just look at this half, right? So if we look at that half, that's a right angle. And I know for right angle, I can find out what this h is because I know my Pythagorean theorem, which states that the c squared should equal a squared plus b squared. And if you use your calculator, 17 squared is 289. 289 minus 8 squared is 225. So you will have h squared equals 225. And if you take a square root on both sides, you should have your h, your height of the triangle is 15. Now, notice I have h, which is really all I need in my previous formula. So I plug it back in there, and I rewrite this here, and I plug in h equals 15, and then 15 times 8, I should have my area being 120 square meters. Don't forget the unit. Okay, so again, proceed as you normally will with your area formula until a point where you get stuck. And then look at a different way, use a different formula to find out what information do you exactly need. And then circle it back to your old place where you got stuck and plug in the new information, and you should be able to solve everything. This is a cute, really useful tip that if you know this, if you don't know this, it's not a big deal, but if you know it, it helps you to calculate things a lot quicker. There is, in any kind of Pythagorean theorem, well, not any kind of Pythagoreans, but in a right triangle, it says that if I have one leg equals 3, one leg equals 5, the longest side, the hypotenuse, must be 5. And if I have, I'm not drawing this in scale, but if I have one leg is 12, one leg is 5, the hypotenuse, I did it the other way around. If I have one side equals 12, one side equals 5, one leg equals 5, my hypotenuse has to be 13. And same thing with these two scenarios. So, and all of the numbers below is just multiples of these triples. So if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 would work, 9, 12, 15 would work. And if you have 5, 12, 13, 10, 24, 26 would work. And if you recognize that if you are given a right angle, and if 2 out of 3 sides are given, the third side you already know without doing the calculation. So here's an example where we're asked to use two methods to find the value of x, which is the hypotenuse. Notice that 45 divided by 3 is 15. 24 divided by 3 is 8. So let me write that 5 more clearly. So it looks like I can probably use the 8, 15, 17 triple that we saw in the previous slide. So without calculating it, I can guarantee you, I can say that because of this 8, 15, 17 triple, and because 45 is 3 times 15, 24 is 3 times 8, I can say that my final answer of x is the last number of the triple 17 multiplied by 3 is 51. Okay, so now let's use another method, our traditional Pythagorean theorem, to verify our calculation is correct. So that's c squared equals a squared plus b squared, and my hypotenuse is x. My one leg is 24, the other leg is 45. I square them both, add them together. 24 squared is 576. 45 squared I cannot do in my head. I have to use a calculator, and that's 2025. If I add the two together, I should have 2607. And then if I take the square roots on both sides, square root of square root of 2601. I'm working my calculator here. 2601 is 51. Bingo. So my method number 1 and my method number 2 came up with the same answer, but obviously the second method, using the triple number 8, 15, 17 came up much faster, much easier, and avoided all of these calculator work. Okay, guys, thank you very much. That's a quick review there.